Hey, welcome guys. So today we're going to be doing a quick kit review, and that will be on Airfix's 172 scale. This is their B17G Flying Fortress. So this is a kit I have had for at least over a year, probably maybe a little bit over 2 years. It's a kit that I've been very excited to build. I don't do quite as much aircraft, but every once in a while it's good to get a break from tanks, and what's more iconic than the B-17? We've all seen Masters of the Air, and it is, I think, one of the best looking planes probably ever made, at least when it comes to kind of military aircraft. So, let's flip it over to the bench, and let's see what's in the box here. Alright, so this kit from Airfix, again, this is 172 scale. This would be a massive 148 scale aircraft, and I would love to do it, but as you can see, this doesn't even fit in my bench. So that's what I have for space. I think it's a great kit for 172 scale because it's such a large aircraft, but we'll get into that with the build and everything like that. This is the B-17 in general from Airfix is a 2016 brand new tooling. So it's relatively new. I know that's 9 years ago as I'm recording this, which is shocking. But in terms of, you know, some of the older Airfix kits that, if any of you out there have built, maybe not, you know, so great, and the brand new ones bordering on the, you know, edges of Tamiya in terms of really perfect fit and really just a joy to build. So I'm really excited. I think this is going to, just based on the look of the parts and, you know, the pressing and everything, it looks like this, while it might not be a brand new Airfix kit, it's going to be along the same lines. So they did a couple different decal options throughout the years. They did new parts again in 2017. This particular version is the 2017 updated decal, at least at the time, decal marking option. That's the metal or metallic body with the yellow tail, wingtips, and the 4 engines there. In 2025, Airfix, which is this year, Airfix announced a new, I don't know if there's new parts in it, I forgot to look, but there's a new marking option, new decals, and it's going to be in the green color, which in my mind is what I envision when I see a B-17. My original plan was to just ignore these marking options and to make a green B-17 because I don't have a B-17, and if I'm going to have one, it was going to be in green. That being said, we'll get into the part that I'm missing. It's going to end up being 2 parts that I am missing for this kit. So I will definitely be buying the newest Airfix version of this kit, doing it in green. So we're going to do this kit in the metallic color. I bought a can of spray paint to do it. So it's an excuse for me to buy 2 and to build 2. Anyways, B-17, it was featured in the European and the Pacific Theater. I didn't find quite as much information on the Pacific Theater, so feel free to put it in the comments. We all know the history on the European Theater. They had a rough go. This was used by the RAF and then the 8th Air Force starting in 1941. The aircraft was originally designed around 1938. And the G variant, is the final variant of the B-17. So the first variant only had 7 machine guns. And at that time, Germany also had a lot more air superiority to the point where they were bombing into Britain. So they had to keep adding, you know, ball turrets, different machine guns, things like that. And eventually, while they started with 7, the G ended with 13 different machine guns. So almost doubled the amount of firepower that was in this. And different tactics, flying in formations, things like that. Obviously, they still had a rough go about it, but it helped, you know, the vehicle stay in service. And then once the P-51 Mustang came along, which was capable of flying alongside this long range, which other fighters couldn't do, that's when they started to actually really see success in bombing a lot of industrial targets. Ball bearing factories, things like that was the target for these. You know, disrupt the supply line and tanks can't roll, you know, aircraft can't be put together, things like that. So enough on the history. This kit in particular, we get the ball turret, of course, but it is adjustable, it's movable. Wing flaps are adjustable and movable. And then there's also a stand that you can buy. I don't have it, but Airfix does sell it, so if you wanted to display the landing gear up and you wanted to put it on a stand and have it look nice in a flying position, that is possible. We'll be doing ours with the landing gear down. But let's take a look at the sprues and what we got inside. All right, so we have 248 parts in this kit, which for a 172 aircraft is pretty decent in terms of part count. Obviously, that's because it is a larger aircraft. This is, you know, bigger than a 148 scale P-51. I think I built one recently. The P-51 was probably like this long, so just to give you an idea of scale. But we do get, you know, obviously the problem with 172 scale is going to be there's a lot of good detail and panel lines here, but they're going to be shallow, which is going to be slightly difficult because I do plan on painting this with spray paint on the outside. And spray paint, while Tamiya's spray paint is really, really great and it sits really well in levels, it's spray paint, so it's easy to do too much and, you know, clog up things like that. But hopefully we don't have any of those problems. On the inside, we obviously have some really good detail here, which I'll zoom in on a little bit. And we do have some injector pin marks. Like the one up here, you know, I'm not even going to do anything about it. There's one here, looks like a decent one there, small one there. That makes, I think, 4. And then a big one here and here. Those will be easy. That one will be a little difficult. This one will be easy to fill. These will be very difficult. You're not going to be able to sand those out. What I will be doing, I have the MIG, Ammo by MIG surfacer putty. That has a little fine tip, you know, applicator. That'll be perfect for that. That way you don't have to touch it up because that product self-levels. But it is something to think about if you are buying this kit. The good news is this is all interior. I don't do a ton of work on my aircraft interiors. I'm not going to be using the markers on this one. I am going to airbrush and try to do a little bit more detail than I normally do, just because it's a larger aircraft in general, and we will get some windows and view into it. But if you are looking to do a ton of detail, there is some cleanup work that we're going to have to do there. Next up, we have our props here, and a couple different, yes, this is the piece, a couple different pieces of the engine, it looks like. So, my problem, and I don't know if it was in the bag. I check my bags 3 or 4 times, if I'm being honest, for different parts, and I'm usually very, very careful opening them. It does look like this was broken off the sprue. There is a very good chance that it's user error and that it was my fault. That's probably the best chance. But I only have one of these. I emailed Airfix, who is actually very good about replacement parts. In my opinion, not quite as good as Tamiya. Tamiya has sent me free parts before without paying for anything. I did have to pay something like 10 pounds or 11 pounds for this, which is, you know, like 15 US roughly. And they sent me one of these parts. I gave them the code and the piece. They sent me the wrong part. And I was going to, because I spent money on it, I was going to write back and let them know that this engine cover isn't there, but then I saw the 2025 kit that came out, and I said, nah, I'm going to build 2 of these anyways. So I will be building it with these engine covers off. It won't look right, but it's going to be a really small detail, and hopefully we won't notice. This wing also did come, you know, broken off the sprue, that is. But it's nothing that we can't clean up. It's not an integral part that is broken. Anyways, the detail is very, very good here. But again, we do suffer potentially from very, very shallow panel lines. And again, that is just the 172 scale. Airfix, this is a really nice job of, you know, molding and everything like that. It's just, this is the downside of 172 aircraft. But maybe we'll run an X-Acto knife, hobby knife down it, and we will get some bigger panel lines and things like that for our washes. Next up, we have some pieces of the interior here. These are going to be our different bombs, and I believe these are the ladders that will hold the bombs. And then we have two of the pieces here that are going to be part of the interior, and then the wings are going to kind of click into. So we'll assemble the interior first, and then we'll click the wings in there, will be how we build this. Next up, this is sprue number 4. Again, different pieces of the interior. We have our floor here. Let's see if I was right with 13 machine guns, or I shouldn't say me, I should say Wikipedia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So maybe there's 2 somewhere else, but we have, oh, there you go. There's 13. So we have 13 machine guns as advertised, again by the great Wikipedia. And then whole different, we have like a little radio here, and a whole bunch of different parts. Now, for 172 scale, this is definitely very well detailed. Try to zoom in on the machine guns here. You can see the machine guns have good detail, but again, we're just going to have to be careful not to kind of muddy them up and to drown out those details. The details are very, very good on this kit. They're just in scale, I think. My opinion is that they're in scale, so we just want to be really careful with paint. And then we have our sprue. This is sprue number 5 with a bunch of our different engine parts. So we're going to have 4 engines on this kit. And again, we do have some decent detail. I've built the C-47. I'm trying to think what else that had engines, and generally you can't see much of this detail anyways, to the point where I just paint it black and it's covered up by shadows. But we'll see when we get to that part. Maybe we'll dry brush some of that and try to bring out some of that detail. But I think this is the right amount of detail without going over the top. Next sprue we have, it looks like part of our landing gear here. Again, maybe some radios, if I can get it to focus. Radios and things like that, rear landing gear. And again, we do have some pretty decent detail on the, I guess, front landing gear, if you will. Little seats. Someone needs a place to sit. And then a couple different parts, looks like, of the interior here. But nothing too crazy. Again, good detail there. Again, shallow, kind of the theme of this. But again, it's still there. And then we have our tail here. So going to be a 2-part assembly on the tail, and then these are molded in one piece here. The wing flaps, and that's for the tail and for the main wings. And that's nice detail there. These little rivets, and let me zoom in here. You can see a bunch of tiny different little bolts and rivets and whatnot. So plenty of detail there, which is really, really nice to see. And if I can get this to focus, it's focusing on my hand, not the plastic. There's a bunch of detail there as well. So I've lost count of sprues, but I think this is 7 or 8, and this is the final sprue. This is the other side of the wings. So the wings will be a 2-part assembly, which is, you know, very traditional. So there probably won't be much of a seam, but something that we'll have to sand down. And of course the fuselage of the aircraft comes in 2 pieces, so there'll be some sanding there too. But hopefully not much. And so that does it for our 245 pieces. It's nothing too crazy. although I just lied, there are a couple more pieces. And I'll open our clear parts here. And we have our different ball turret and our different cockpits, windows, things like that. I think these are all windows and different pieces of the turret and the nose. Nothing too crazy here. It does look like, for the most part, they've put all of these little supports and sprue gates in pretty decent spots. This can be a little difficult cutting off clear parts. Sometimes when you cut it, it hazes up the plastic that we don't want, but this is pretty good. This is going to be a little bit difficult here. We're definitely going to get a little bit of spillover onto that piece. This is a lot better because it's on a piece that we're going to end up painting. So I would prefer to see more of that, but this is another one that will probably end up hazing a little bit. We're kind of 50-50 on the clear parts. Some of them will turn out fine, and some of them will just have to say, hey, that's good enough, and try not to oversand them. Lastly in the kit, in terms of, I guess, stuff we get, are the decals, or decals if you are watching from the UK. And we have a, which I love, in color paint guide that goes with them. So this is the aircraft that we'll be doing from the 447th Bomb Group, 8th Air Force. It's going to be primarily, obviously, the aluminum color, but this is pretty nice. We don't have a lot of different colors. If you compare this to a German aircraft, which the paint jobs are amazing, but they're very tedious to do and very difficult to do. This is kind of a breath of fresh air. It, again, will be interesting to see how we do with the spray paint. I might turn back from doing the spray paint road, but I did it on my C-47, and I thought it looked really nice. I don't paint with lacquers, and the spray paint is lacquer, so I don't airbrush with lacquers. So because I'm not going to weather this very heavily, I would like to get a really nice finish on it. But you do get two different marking options, so that's where all the decals reflect, and the other one's going to be an aluminum color too, but with red instead of yellow. And then there's 5 colors in there, so not too much different, nothing too crazy there. And then we have, last but not least, our Airfix instructions. Now, I'm a fan of Airfix instructions. They aren't the best. I still got to give it to Tamiya on their instructions just being perfect. But something I absolutely love that Airfix does is this kind of red orangish piece that you're gonna that they color in here. That's the previous piece from a previous step. So it just gives you an idea, it gives you an additional angle sometimes for where the piece is going to fit and how it's going to fit. So obviously we have indicator marks there, but this piece, for example, we just get 2 different views. I'm sure other people have had this experience, but sometimes, and I hate to put a name on it, but building the Tacom half track, there'd be a piece that there was an arrow that went down and it was covered up by 5 different arrows, and there wasn't, on the next set of instructions, you couldn't see where the piece sat. So it's a small shout out, but I really think that is extremely helpful, just to give you, again, 2 different angles and everything like that. So very helpful in the instructions, and Airfix does a very good job. We have 137 steps. They do a very good job of not putting too many things into one step. A lot of steps are just 1 to 2 pieces, so nothing too crazy. But that concludes our unboxing and our review of our B17. In the next video, what I will most likely do is a 2-part video in this series. Because I won't really be weathering it, I do plan on probably just ending with a pin wash It's a metallic color, so I don't know, there's not going to be any chipping, anything like that. And I don't want to go too crazy. I will probably go into a little bit more detail on the interior than I normally do, just to change things up and do something different. So keep an eye out for the next, the 2-part series on this. We'll probably do part 1 and obviously the first half of the build, but mainly the interior, and then the second part being the exterior of the vehicle. So, very excited about this. And as soon as I build this, see, I can't even fit it in the frame. As soon as I build this, I will definitely be purchasing the new one. So if you've made it this far, and you haven't already, I would please ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. We will also be finishing our Tacom Tiger. By the time this video shows, we will have finished our Comet. And I do have the Hellcat, which I believe that in the Soviet artillery tractor will conclude my kind of top 5 that I had planned for 2025. I'm very excited, I don't know why, I got an M7 Priest from Airfix that I just love the look of it, and I don't know, I hadn't built any Airfix armor, so a lot of things to come, a lot of things that I'm planning and have in my head that I want to build, as well as another little figure diorama that I'm working on. These are the Tamiya machine gunners. There's 2 of them that are lying down next to each other. And we're going to do a miniature vignette diorama kind of thing with that. So, anyways, appreciate you guys watching. Please, in the comments, I do read and respond to all of them. If you've built this kit before, you have any opinions on it, whatever, anything you want to say about the kit, if there's any things I should look out for, please let me know and let anyone else know that's interested in this kit. But hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the build video.